Hello, everybody. Tracy, Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president at JDog Brands. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast, sponsored by the JDog Foundation. Our podcast gives veterans, male spouses, active military members, military family members, and patriotic military supporters a voice in the veteran space to speak about their service, how they're affecting their communities post-service, and they share with me a tactical treasure that has helped them in their journey in their military career, business, or life. Today, I'm so excited to have with me Phyllis Wilson, who served 37 years in the Army as a military intelligence voice intercept operator. She has served around the globe, visiting more than 35 countries. She has been mobilized numerous times to shoulder the duties of defense of the nation and is deployed to Iraq several times as an intelligence analyst with special operations. Chief Warrant Officer 5 Phyllis Wilson served as the most senior warrant officer in the entire United States Army Reserve and a key member of the executive team. Phyllis is a registered nurse and holds 2 master's degrees, 2 Bachelor of Science degrees, and a certificate in nonprofit management from Duke University. She attended the Defense Language Institute for both German and Spanish. She is a graduate of the program in Advanced Security Studies at the George C. Marshall Center and School in Garmisch, Germany. She has received numerous military decorations and awards, and she has been inducted into the Army Women's Foundation Hall of Fame and the U.S. Veterans Hall of Fame. Now Phyllis serves as president of the Women in Military Service for America Memorial Foundation. Phyllis is a member of numerous military service organizations and boards, such as the Daughters of the American Revolution. Wow, what an amazing bio, ma'am. Thank you so much for your service to our country, and what an amazing career. And wow, so much schooling. I'm impressed. It's really awesome. And thank you for joining me today.
Oh, yeah, really excited. I've watched some of your past podcasts, and they're just so much fun to watch. And you do a great job of asking the questions and then sort of see where it goes. Let us off the chain a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I love doing this podcast. It's been such an honor for me and very rewarding. I've met so many amazing people that have done just amazing things for our country, and to allow them to tell their story, it's been an honor and a privilege. And I'm so excited to have you on. And I would love to know an amazing career in the Army, 37 years doing amazing stuff. What inspired you to join the Army? I would love to know.
So I had a really great patriotic answer, and I don't. I was trying to work my way through college. Nobody in my family had ever gone to college. And you don't know what you don't know. So I was trying to muddle my way through, working 2 part-time jobs and trying to go to community college and taking like 2 classes a semester. And I did the math, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be like 25 or 30 years old before I even have an associate's degree. And as fate would have it, on the radio in that era was and they brought it back, the Army's Be All That You Can Be. And I heard it one day and I said, well, you know what? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I walked in, they had money for college. I just needed to do 4 years. And my dad had been born and raised Amish and then Mennonite, but they spoke Pennsylvania Dutch. And he's one of 10 kids.
Wow.
Used to make me crazy as a child when he would they'd sit there and tell stories back and forth and laugh, but in Pennsylvania Dutch. And we did not know that. My mom was not raised that way. She was Catholic. And it was a big scandal back in the day when Amish Mennonite man married a Catholic woman. But long story short, they happily married, still going strong, and they're in their mid-80s. So that worked out for them. But one of the opportunities, and you said I was a voice intercept operator, I listened with headphones to our enemies that spoke, in this case, German, when there was in East Germany before the wall came down. A lot of young people nowadays, they know of Germany, but they don't realize not that long ago, there were 2 Germanys.
That's
one
right.
on the Soviet side, one on the the Allied side. And so when I had that opportunity, and then they were going to give me a bonus if I would go to the language school out in Monterey, California, I didn't know. I was really falling into a very good situation. And look where it landed me ultimately. And you're right.
Wow.
I love education. I took advantage of all of that and so much more. The training and the education that the military gives anybody that loves to learn, it's a great place to go.
Wow. Wow. How amazing. That's really great. Um, so is there a particular aspect? I'm sure there's tons of aspect and moments of your service, but is there one that stood out as being impactful in a positive way for you?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I wish I had only done 4 years. Maybe I could
Right.
figure it out. You know, you learn a lot about yourself based on how other people see you. And along the way, so I enlisted, so I was a private, and then made my way up, became a sergeant. And along the way, then I applied to become one of the Army's technical experts, which is the Army Warrant Officer Program. And so I'd been in about 8 years, and I went to that program. And one of the men that I kind of knew, we had the same career field, but it was warrant officer applicants, candidates that were trying to make it through this very difficult school. And we were at one place where we were running up the side of a mountain and you can't fall out. You have to keep going. But I was really struggling, like I couldn't breathe that day. So I looked over to Tom and I said, I don't think I can make it. Thinking this guy was going to be like, come on, stick with me. You can do it. I thought I needed to hear those kind of words, but he knew me better than I did, because
Uh-huh.
what he said was rude. Then just fall out, stop running, just quit.
That
And
was
I
an
was stunned that he had
Yeah.
said that to me, but it was exactly the right thing,
Oh,
because I was like, I can't believe you said that. You think I would quit, And so I stuck with it and
all
made it
right.
all the way up that mountainside. And afterwards I said, I can't believe you said that. He goes, got you up the hill, didn't it? And so sometimes it taught me to look at really understanding the people I work with and people that work for me,
Hmm.
and what trips their trigger. And sometimes, while it may seem mean at the moment, it may be exactly the right thing for them.
Wow, I love that. That's a great lesson. I think for everybody as well, to really understand, even as an employer, to understand the people and your staff that are working with you, what does it take to motivate somebody, right? And that was your motivation. And I'm sure, and I would have been the same way. I would have been, what? No, I am finishing. Like, you know.
Show you, right?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So, okay. Um, so now you are the president of the Women in Military Service for American Memorial Foundation. Um, so an amazing organization. I've been to the website. I totally love the work that you're doing, and it's amazing. 3 million women have served our country since the Revolutionary War. Like what? Y- I mean, I know there was a lot, but to have that many and to have this amazing organization where their stories are told, I just love it. So tell me a little bit about this amazing organization. How did it get started? How did you become a part of it? I would love to hear the journey.
Yeah. One of the first things I did, I've been here for 5 years. The memorial has been here going on 27 years, but it took a decade before that, from when Congress approved it in the 1980s, the creation of a national memorial to recognize the women in military service,
Hmm.
and then the fundraising, and then ultimately the groundbreaking in 1995, and then dedication day, which was just an incredible moment. I wish I had known about the memorial at that time. I was
Mm,
serving. I was down stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is now Fort Liberty.
right.
But that's where I was. I was 4 hours away from this magic that I didn't
Hmm.
even know was happening. Of course, at the time, between education, family, service to the country, and I had actually left regular Army, and I was an Army Reserve soldier at this point. So I had a civilian job as a registered nurse. I was doing my weekend Army Reserve drills. My husband had been injured in the first Gulf War, so we're going through a lot of surgeries at Walter Reed, and I had
Wow.
kids that I was trying to homeschool. So I missed out hearing about this memorial. But as fate would have it, it opened to a more than 40,000 people out front of the memorial. It was just a stunning day. People still light up when they tell me they were there.
Wow.
And then in 2013, it had been open for 16 years. I was still serving. Now I was full time back working in the Pentagon. And a friend of mine had a promotion ceremony at the memorial and invited me. I knew nothing about it. I took the metro. It's one metro stop from the Pentagon to Arlington National Cemetery, where the memorial is located. And I'm walking towards this curved wall thinking, where's everybody at? I had no idea there was basically a museum behind the wall. So I
Right.
go inside and it gave me chill bumps. I couldn't believe goosebumps. Sorry. I'm south. It's chill bumps down. Um, and I instantly had to know more. I learned about this national repository database where they tell each of our stories, individual stories with a photo, when and where we served, what our memorable experiences are. And it was like, well, I'm in. I got to put my story in here. And that was in 2013. In 2017, 4 years later, was the 20th anniversary of the memorial. I came to the big party, saw people like Anne Dunwoody, the first woman ever to be a 4-star. I was like
Oh,
fangirling
wow.
all of these women that were there.
Oh,
Oh my God, I can't believe they're all here. But I mean, they understood that our legacy is so incredibly important that we keep it alive and we continue to tell the young Americans what these women have been doing for going on 250 years.
right.
So now this is October of 2017. Just fangirl and all this stuff. No idea that in less than 24 months from that, I was going to be the president of the organization.
Oh, wow.
Not on my radar at all. So you just never know where
Uh,
life is going to take you.
no, it's
So
true.
now
You
I'm
never
here
do.
5 years, but I would tell you one of the first things we worked on was changing the at least public facing name. Our legal name is in fact that long thing you said, Women in Military Service for America Memorial Foundation.
Right.
But this is actually our current name, the Military Women's
Women's
Memorial.
Memorial. I love it.
Short, much shorter, much sweeter, much
Yeah.
easier to say, especially when we still answer our phones here, is it's the Military Women's Memorial. And to your point, we continue to, inside of the Museum Education Center, tell those stories through artifacts and exhibits and entertainment stories. It's just panel discussions. I never knew so much of our military history. So because I love education, as you know, I'm learning every day. I'm like, how
Right.
did I not know about this group of women or this one individual woman? So I'm having a lot of fun, but
Right.
I want to make sure America knows about these incredible, they just happen to be women, but they're amazing patriots that have made a
Right.
difference for this country.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can totally understand, not knowing certain groups of women who've done amazing things serving our country. I think when we had our initial discussion, I told you about a woman that I went to church with. She was a great lady, and her maiden name, actually, I looked her up, and she got married while, like, just recently after she had served in World War II, to a bombardier. And then he had passed away, and then she remarried again. But her original name was Chris Swan, and she was one of the 1,200 women who went through the program to become WASPs, for World War II, the women pilots. And it was amazing. I actually went to church with her for many years, and we honored her in 2010 when the women finally received the Congressional Gold Medal. Is it that's the Congressional
That's the
Medal?
right term. Yes, the
Yeah,
Congressional Gold Medal. Yes.
yes, finally being recognized for their service, and she actually was able to make the trip to Washington D.C. to actually accept that and be there for that ceremony. And um, I get goosebumps talking about her, but I actually did a whole story on her for a newsletter for our company, JDog. We have a JDog spouses group, and I actually did an interview with her. She told me her whole story, everything that she did. It was amazing. Just an incredible women did amazing stuff.
Yeah, and
And
for all of our folks that are watching and listening, the women Air Force service pilots, these female pilots of World
right.
War II, when people say, "Oh, women didn't start flying until the 1970s or 80s," no, no, no,
No, no, no.
1940s,
Yeah,
and many of them were already accomplished, had over 1,000 flying hours before they
right.
volunteered their service.
Hmm.
But of these nearly 1,200 women that flew, 38 of them died doing their job in World War II. And when the war
Yes.
was over, they were told, "No, no, no, you didn't really serve. You're not a veteran." And it took until 1977. So they for 30 years they fought to finally get recognized as veterans and have the right to have a flag on their casket. So and to be recognized. So it took from that
Yeah.
1945 to 1977 to get veteran status, to 2009, 2010 to get the Congressional Gold Medal as a group for what they did. They stepped up.
Right.
Now, the men were trained to fly one particular kind of airplane. The women brought every plane that came off from the assembly line or came out of maintenance here in the United States. So they hopped into any plane that was coming off, and they had to know how to fly every one of them. And like I said, 38 of them died doing their job. And then to be told, "No, your work was insignificant, not even
Right.
good enough."
Right.
And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so glad they're spunky because they fought to make sure they got recognized.
They did. They did, and they deserved to get recognized. And I remember, when the end of the war came, they were literally tossed aside. These were women pilots that were so accomplished. They couldn't get it their service. They were done. They said, "Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye. The men are back." And they couldn't get pilot jobs. They couldn't continue with their piloting career. Nobody would have anything to do with them, and it was a shame. But they did great stuff, and it was hard to get through that program too. There were many, many women. I think over 2,000 that actually maybe signed up, and only 1,200 made it or something. I
I think it
forget
was
the
more like 20,000
was it?
that
Okay.
tried, and 1,200 were a number of them. Actually, one of the most horrific deaths that happened, a plane that came off the assembly line, when the gals jumped in the pilot seat and started taxiing out, and something sparked in this brand new plane, caught fire. And again, it's a new plane. The canopy latch, she couldn't open the latch and get out. She burned to death out
Oh
there on the
God.
tarmac. And four of the women that had just were completing the training, they resigned on the spot when they watched what happened to their friend. They're like,
Right.
"No, can't do this," and they walked away. The rest that saw it happen just rolled up their sleeves and kept going. But you
Yeah.
can't fault anybody either way to watch a friend of theirs, because you don't
Right.
burn to death quietly, you
No.
know.
Yeah. I
She's
know.
clawing at the glass and all these things, and like, come on, tell us we didn't serve. Come on, tell us.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. 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 Amazing. And you're actually going all the way back to the Revolutionary War, because there again were amazing women that did great stuff serving our country way back then. So your job is to kind of bring these stories to life and house them within the memorial, right? What so you guys are actually at the opening of Arlington Cemetery, correct?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah. So we've got 33,000 square feet. We actually could use a much larger venue, but that's what we have, and we're not going to be able to make it any bigger because obviously Arlington National Cemetery has a job to do as well.
sure.
The front wall of our memorial was actually built in the 1930s. It was the finishing end of when they built the Lincoln Memorial on the other side of the Potomac in Washington, D.C. They also built then the Memorial Bridge that goes over the Potomac that shoots straight into the entry of Arlington National Cemetery. So from the Lincoln, you walk, it's maybe 6/10 of a mile, over Memorial Bridge, down Memorial Drive, and boom, you're at the Military Women's Memorial. And inside we start and we tell it pretty much in a historical timeline, starting with the early women of the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Civil War, because it was really the only times that we were tracking what women did then. And then you've got the Spanish-American War of the 1890s, which is really the tipping point that got the Army Nurse Corps created in 1901. And that was our first formal entry in any fashion to be part of the military. Before that, all of the women, they either disguised themselves as men or they were what were called, it was an official term, as camp followers, because men and women followed the military encampments to either cook, do laundry, provide medical services. The men that were on horseback, if they needed a blacksmith to fix the shoes on the horses or care for them, all of those things were camp followers. And there were a number of women that followed their husband, their brother, things like that to provide that kind of support. So while the men were off fighting, when they came back, there was a kettle of food waiting for them, and their clothes had been washed and their socks repaired. And important work that we now think of as supply sergeants and you know, our army or military chefs and cooks. But back then it was just they weren't reimbursed for it, but it was a necessary job that somebody had to do. Sure. And these women were really putting themselves at risk because if the enemy had overrun, you know, sometimes they don't treat women terribly well when they're on the losing side.
Yeah. Hello, viewers and listeners. Are you a military veteran or military family member and looking to own your own business? If so, go to JDog.com and check out our 2 veteran-focused franchises, JDog Junk Removal and Hauling and JDog Carpet Cleaning and Floor Care. Our franchisees nationwide are always looking to hire fellow veterans and patriots. JDog is the world's largest military franchise system with hundreds of locations nationwide. We are nearly 90% veteran-owned with the goal of reducing the veteran unemployment rate to under 1%. Check us out. Go to jdog.com to learn more. Now, back to the podcast. So, I love it. I think it's amazing. So you also have the Her Story podcast.
We do.
And you are a fellow Reese Across America Radio family member. So I love having, you know, Reese Across America Radio guests on with their podcasts. And I've had a few of them on, and I feel like we're all part of one big Reese Across America Radio family. So tell me, how did the podcast come about?
Well, we've just fallen in love with Reese Across America. As a matter of fact, up in Maine, where they cut the balsam trees down to make those millions of wreaths that are placed at veterans' grave sites in December every year, they dedicated a 10-acre grove of the balsam trees to the Military Women's Memorial, and we are hanging dog tags of military women, past and present, onto every one of those trees. And the Worcester family have said, when we fill that one up, they'll give us another 10 acres. So, and they make the dog tags for free. You can reach out to their STEM to Stone program with Reese Across America, fill in the information that they need. They'll stamp out that dog tag, and a couple times a year, we make a trek out there and hang them, or some of the staff that work up there with Reese Across America will go out and hang that dog tag for maybe your grandmother. It may be you. You know, whoever it is, if you want to do that, that's great. But we've known since I started working at the Women's Memorial, as you know, Arlington National Cemetery was the original location for Reese Across America. Yeah. And so the whole Worcester family comes down and does a big events at Arlington National Cemetery. Well, here we are sitting at the entryway, and we normally close to the public because about 50 to 75,000 people show up at Arlington National Cemetery that day. And while we are a public facility, our bathrooms, we learned our lesson. People,
Oh,
boy, what people will do in a bathroom is kind of shocking, I will tell you.
yeah.
So we stay closed to the public. They have, the porta potties out throughout Arlington that day. But we do open, and Reese Across America Radio broadcasts live that morning from inside, but we also allow every Reese Across America local volunteer and the leadership team that came down from Maine to use us, because he stopped drinking his coffee, but boy, for years he was a coffee drinker. Sadly, a couple of years ago, as you know, he had a horrible stroke that,
Yeah.
oh, thank goodness he survived, and seems to not have any signs of long lasting impairment as a result of it, but scared the whole family. And it was just like a
Sure.
week before they were supposed to make that
Hmm.
week-long journey down with all those big trucks loaded up with the wreaths.
Yeah.
So we have them come down and spend time with us, and it's just, they're really good people, and
Yeah.
that's who you want to partner with, right?
Yeah.
Good people.
I've had Karen on my podcast. She's an amazing woman, and I just love her story. Where JDog is actually a sponsorship. Uh, so we have our own page, and people can buy a wreath and donate a veteran's wreath. So in our name. So and it helps our foundation. But yeah, amazing. So your podcast is Tuesday and Wednesdays at no?
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays. Okay. Wednesdays at 1 p.m.
Correct.
Eastern. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. Okay. So we come to the burning question. What is your tactical treasure?
That
Yeah.
gave me more. I had to really think about that, because there's so many things. Certainly the people that you meet when you serve in the military. And see, I can juxtapose it a little differently than a lot of people that serve in only in the military. Whereas I did a stint of full time in the military, and then I have, in that 37 years, I have 16 years of it in which I was a registered nurse in a civilian job, working my way up to be like director of nursing. But at the same time, I never stopped my military connection. But after 9/11, when I had the opportunity to go back in full time, I was in for the fight. I was an angry American that wanted to win that
Sure.
fight,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And then I ended up with special operations, and that was, it was eye opening.
Mm.
The way they do business, different from what we think of the big army, how they do business. It was just so much more streamlined, so much flatter, in that, if you wanted to talk to anybody in the organization, you didn't have this whole where you have to go talk to somebody who then gives you permission to go talk to the next person who gives you permission. No,
Right.
you just went straight to the person that you knew could make the decision. So that was really lovely. But obviously, um, I'm a big family person, and my tactical treasures are actually four of my sons are combat veterans too.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I'll share the pictures with you as well. But this is some of my three
Oh.
of my four. I'm the little baby looking thing in there. Those are some big guys. I feel safe around them. That's a tactical treasure right there. No,
Yes,
actually, the one
yes.
in the white shirt was just graduating basic training, and two of his brothers, one is a step brother, one is his full brother, showed up to be there for his basic training graduation.
Oh,
So they're my
wow.
tactical treasure, and they actually truly were tactical, because one of those was in Iraq at the same time I was, and was able to get over to my location, and we promoted him to sergeant.
Oh,
Um,
wow. How
but to
special.
Yes, in a combat zone, I mean, some people would have been embarrassed. They don't want to tell anybody. My mom is over here too,
All
but
right.
they seem to be okay with it, and
Yeah.
that was always a sense of pride. They didn't mind, and like my one that was just graduating basic training, he had his bachelor's degree already, so he came in as a specialist, and now he's continuing to serve in the Army Reserve. So yeah, to watch what these guys have done, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a sense of service and a sense of huge pride, obviously.
Right. Oh, of course. How special. And you know what? What an amazing example that you made for, promoting the legacy of your family to serve, so kudos to you. I mean,
You
that they
never
would want
know.
to follow in your footsteps, right? And
Well, their
that sense
father
of,
was a great military guy
yeah,
as well, and I think
yes,
that, they saw it and they didn't think anything of it, of having two parents come
sure.
home wearing the uniform and the boots, because the boys sometimes they would, once you take your military boots off, it seems to be a tradition in many military homes that those little rugrats, the little guys 2, 3, 4 years old, they got to try to put their feet in and then clomp around in those boots,
I
right?
know, right?
It's so
Right.
cute.
I've heard it. Military brats. What military brat hasn't put on their father's or mother's boots and clomped around the house? So,
Yeah.
but that's amazing. Your family, sense of service above self, and so you and your husband instilled amazing values that your sons wanted to serve the country as well. So I think that's awesome. What an
And even,
amazing treasure.
yeah, and the daughters, I have one son that didn't serve. I have 8 total. So 4 boys, yes.
Oh my
One son
goodness.
doing great work in his local communities, really a community leader. And then my 3 girls are, one is a nurse, one is a school teacher, and
Okay.
the other is very involved also in our community, in outreach programs and so forth. So they're all doing something for the good of the country,
Yeah.
just in their own way.
And
I
they're,
mean,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But
And
we
they're,
need a lot more community leaders that understand what it is to do something not for themselves, shall we
right.
say.
Yeah, yeah, yes. I've had Megan Ogilvy on. She's the CEO of Dog Tag
Okay.
Bakery, and and she grew up in a Marine Corps family, and I believe her sister served, and her father obviously served. Her mother was a mill spouse for 20 plus years, 26 years, and she said that she told her dad, she said, Dad, you know what? The military is just not for me. And he said to her, well, you know what? It's okay. I know you'll find your way. And she did, service above self. So, yeah.
Dog Tech Bakery, that program is really giving so many veterans that are into
Hmm.
the baking community space, because the mentorship and the program they go through
Yeah.
certainly doesn't just teach them how to make great tasting goodies, but actually how to run a business properly.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the skill set that I think is more important. We can all follow recipes and do
Sure.
things,
Right.
but how do you scale a business is
Right.
something that Megan does a great job with. I
Yeah.
love what she does. We
Yeah.
buy and we order. She makes beautiful Military Women's Memorial square cookies that are
I
iced
love
and
it.
gorgeous for many of our receptions and open houses that we have at the memorial. We make sure we stay connected with her.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, she's a great lady.
She
Um,
is.
so any advice for fellow women veterans that are transitioning and getting out and trying to forge their way in the civilian world?
Yeah, I think whether I have a son, one of those boys that you saw, the one that I promoted in Iraq, he just retired earlier this year from the Army.
Wow.
20 years and he has retired. I'm like, oh my gosh, how does this happen?
All right. I
Well,
know.
and so he took one of the advantage of one of the programs where he did an internship with Gulfstream down in Savannah, which is where he was assigned. And so he did that while he was still in the Army, and they could test him out and they made him the job offer. So he landed a job that way, and he's still navigating. He's been out since the end of March of this year. So he's a little bit more recent than mine. And he only was regular Army the whole way through. So
Hmm.
that's the life he knew. Whereas I mixed and matched civilian and military. I think my advice for anybody transitioning out is breathe. Just breathe. It's okay. You've showed up at other, we move every 2, 3, 4 years, get a whole new assignment doing something we have never done before. And everybody knows in the military, we get time to figure it out. Well, take some time to figure it out. And it's okay. One of the stats that I hear that I'm not alarmed at, but a lot of people seem to be, is that many people, when they leave the military, the first job they come into, they're only there for 24 months or less, and then they move to their next. Well, hell, that's what we did the whole time we were in the military.
True.
We never held a job that long.
Yeah.
So why would you think that suddenly you're going to jump out into something, some new space, and say, and this is the first time you have the freedom to change? Because if you show up at a job and you're not in love with it in the military, suck it up, cupcake. You're going to do it until it's time to be reassigned.
Right.
And so if you're there for a year or two and you go, this is not what I thought it was going to be, or you took it because you needed a paycheck, and in the meantime, you're getting more and more feelers out there, and now the job of your dreams comes available. That sense of loyalty and duty is long gone, of sticking with one company from the time you start working for them until you leave, in hopes that you'll climb that corporate ladder, if that's what you want to do.
Right.
So I would just say, breathe, don't worry about it. It's okay to not be okay for a little while.
Yeah, that's great advice. Because I mean, and you're right. It's kind of similar to your military
Mm-hmm.
experience. You get snatched away and you go into a different position and you have to figure it out. And it's the same thing with life, right? Life is kind of the same way. It's a new position, the civilian world, okay, that maybe, especially if you spent no time as an adult in the civilian world, you went right into the service. Yeah, it's culture shock. So it's okay to try to navigate it just like you had to navigate the military. It's a similar experience, and you don't have to get it right away.
I mean, we don't get any part of our life right away.
Yeah.
And just accept that. People are so afraid of failure. And I used to be. I thought the fear of failure was what drove me. And then I learned failing is where I learned the most. It doesn't mean that I'm forever a loss at that, but like, when I was going to go to jump school, I wanted to jump out of airplanes, and I made sure I was physically and mentally ready to go, I thought. And I did. I succeeded. I got through it all. But there were times when I questioned, what the hell am I doing here? What am I thinking? Um, I'm not good enough, and you start running all of these scenarios through in your own head. But have been things that I have decided I wanted to go for and maybe didn't do so well on the first go round. But then I knew, see, the thing is, you don't know what you don't know until
Right.
you don't succeed at something. And you're like, now I know what I need to do to be successful.
Right.
And so the next iteration of doing that, you'll do fine. So don't feel like, oh, well, I didn't get that job. No, you didn't get that job right now. Go back and ask them, what other things could I build upon so that I would be more likely to get hired with you guys, because you're the ones I want to work with. What do I need to do to be exactly the right kind of employee for you? Let them tell you. And then if it's something that means enough to you, go do it.
That's great advice. I love it. Yeah. Um, so before you go, this has been an amazing discussion. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything, and um, very excited about the memorial. Where can people find and connect with you, and where can they find out more information on the Military Women's Memorial?
Thanks for asking that. So we have a tremendous website, which includes both a 360 virtual tour. You can walk right through the entire memorial, zoom in on all of the exhibitions in that. Our website is super simple, womensmemorial.org, womensmemorial.org, and all of our social media platforms. We're on everything except TikTok, and it's all Women's Memorial. Just look for Women's Memorial or do a search on Military Women's Memorial. We're going to pop up number one on all of the platforms, because really and truly, we are the only national memorial out there that honors and tells those kind of stories. And we also have that national database where we're asking every woman that ever has or is serving now to register and put her personal story in there. We have 316,000 of them in there.
Wow.
But that's just about 10%
I
of the
know.
stories. So
Wow.
whether your gal that was a women Air Force service pilot of World War II, please make sure I know her name. We'll confirm her story's in there. And if not, Tracy, tag, you're it. You get to help me
I
make sure her
will.
story is
I,
in there. I'm pretty confident that those women of the Congressional Gold Medal kind of organizations, pretty confident all of them have been registered into there. Every woman that was certainly has died in a combat zone, 179 of them since 9/11 in particular. We know that all of them are registered. And so, like this is that week for this, as we talk about, those that we have lost, it's really important that we tell their stories and we keep
mhm.
their memories alive, because there is that saying, and Karen Worcester says it as well with Race Across America, is there's two times somebody dies. One when they take their last breath, and the second time is when their name is said for the last time. And so we're not going to let that happen here. We
Right.
continue to say their names.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. So let's say I wanted to check to see if her story was in there. Is there a way for me to go on the website and try to find her and find her story?
There sure is. Up on the top right, when you go to womensmemorial.org website, in the top right, if you don't already have an account, because you do have to create an account to do all the dumpster diving into the database,
Sure.
create an account. Any person, man or woman, served or not, can create an account. Once you've done that, it takes 30 seconds to create the account.
Hmm.
Then over on the left-hand side of your account page, there's a Find a Servicewoman tab. Click on that. Put her name in first and last. You don't need to fill in all of the category fields, just her first name and her last name, and then click search. If she's there, and in some cases, like if you put in Phyllis Wilson, you're going to find two, a World War II nurse and me. So you may find under the same name a couple of people, but it's really fun. But you'll find Julia
Yeah.
Child, the chef, is in there, or Marilyn Monroe, or Anne Dunwoody, that first woman 4-star. You put in a name or your own last name and see how many other Flanagans are in there.
Right.
It's a lot of fun to
Right.
just, and you will learn something you did not know about American history by reading those stories. But you can also register. As an example, if she's not registered, you as a friend of the family can go in and start adding to her story any of her memorable experiences when she served. If you have a photo of her, that all the
Right.
better, because it really brings them to life.
Yeah. Yeah. I have well, I did that interview and so I told her story. We spent time together. We took, I have pictures and everything. So
Yeah.
I'll see. I am excited. I can't wait to create my account and go on and see if she's in there. And by the way, my maiden name is Wilson, spelled exactly like yours.
Ah, there we are.
So
About
I don't know. We could be related way back when. I don't know. Who knows?
we absolutely could, because to that point, I only learned a couple of years ago that not only am I qualified to be a daughter of the American Revolution. Who knew? I thought, my dad being Amish, and that I knew that they came over in the 1700s, but I knew that they don't fight. They're conscientious objectors, right? And then my mom said that her family came over from Ireland during the potato famine, which was like the 1840s. So I never dreamt that there was anybody. And not only that, turns out some of my mom's ancestors not only were here and fighting for our country in the 1770s, they were here in the 1620s and came over on the Mayflower.
Wow.
We only learned that a couple of years ago. Thank God for ancestry.com, right?
Yeah, really. Oh, wow.
So this
That's
is
really neat.
completely my country, and I had no idea that this was my background. But these stories are super important, and anybody that can help us put a story into that national database, that story will live. So 100 years from now, researchers, a family member, somebody like me that had no idea, I had generations and generations of ancestors that were here in North America long before this was our country.
Right.
I had no idea until 5 years ago.
Yeah. That's amazing. This is great stuff. We could go on forever.
We could.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything. Your tactical treasure was amazing. And thank you for your family's service and your sons that are serving, and of course the rest of your family that are still serving in different capacities. It's amazing legacy that you've built. And it was so wonderful to speak to you. And thank you for all this information. And I can't wait to go on and create my account.
Yay, I'm
It'll be
excited.
so much fun.
I'll be watching for your name to pop up as one of our newest members within our system. So yeah.
Yeah.
And again, quickly to make sure everybody knows, it isn't just women that wore the uniform. If they served in the American Red Cross or the USO, if you have a mother or grandmother, they did so many of those women in World War II that answered those kind of calls. We are the place to make sure her story is forever told.
Oh,
And it's a huge mission, but it's a lot of fun
yeah.
to learn about these wildly spunky women, especially from that era, what it took for them to say,
Yeah.
put me in an era when they were supposed to stay in the kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
said, not for me.
Well, those women definitely forged the way for all of us, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. That's good. That's good to know. Well, Phyllis, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing everything. This has been such an amazing podcast. Thank you so much.
Thanks. I had a great time.
Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast. We've just finished up an amazing conversation with Phyllis Wilson, who is a 37-year Army veteran, having served in the Army and Army Reserve. She is now the president of the Military Women's Memorial, which is a one-of-a-kind tribute to Americans service women, past and present, as the only historical repository documenting all military women's service. They educate and inspire through innovative and interactive exhibitions, world-class collections of military women's stories, and engaging programs and events for all generations. They honor the commitment, contributions, and experiences of every woman who serves in or with the armed forces. The Military Women's Memorial opened to the public in 1997 and is located at the gateway to Arlington National Cemetery. It is the only major national memorial honoring the 3 million women who have defended America from the Revolutionary War to the present. The heart of the memorial is the register. For more than 30 years, the memorial has been permanently documenting military women's experiences and their impact on America, military, and women's history. Visitors are invited to look up service women in the register, learn about their impact on our collective history, and purchase a print of individual profiles as a keepsake. If you know a servicewoman or woman veteran, please take advantage of the free registration to ensure her story joins hundreds of thousands of individual stories that make up our register. History is not complete until every military woman's story is told. To learn more, go to womensmemorial.org and be sure to take a listen to the Her Story podcast on Reach Across America Radio on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. Again, thanks for joining us. You can find our Tactical Treasures podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms, as well as Vet TV, American Grit, and our dedicated YouTube channel. We are now airing on Reach Across America Radio on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. And if you missed that, please join us for the encore on Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can also find Reach Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app. We are also proud to share that our JDog Foundation is a Reach Across America sponsorship group. For each $17 Veterans Reef You sponsor, $5 goes directly back to the JDog Foundation, whose mission is to prevent veteran suicide and heal veterans' mental health and PTSD. You can donate right now at reachacrossamericaradioorg/JDog. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again on another podcast real soon. Bye-bye now.